Shabbat Shalom. In my first year of rabbinical school, in the summer, I went to work at a Camp Ramah that was in Georgia, North Georgia mountains. I would end up spending 4 summers at this summer camp. But my first year there was this tragedy that happened. An older camper was out on a rafting trip and drowned on the day out. And I remember being at the camp when the bus came back and the absolute horrible news that spread from one to the other, all the older campers and the counselors. And I remember as I was a teacher of Judaics, teaching Jewish sessions to the campers, I went quickly and went to grab the rabbis who were on staff and said, "We need your help. We need to figure out what to say to the friends of this poor boy and what to say to the older counselors. And when and how are we going to break this to the younger children?" I was new, but I remember seeing the whole camp was just in a chaos. Counselors were falling on each other's shoulders. Really the worst nightmare for any summer camp. A big family, 800 people, a big family. They came together every summer to get away from life and just to be together and to have some of that magical time in the woods. And so over the next days, the whole camp was just focused around helping everyone and providing all kinds of resources for the different age groups and special events for the friends of the deceased. And I do not remember all of it, but I remember very clearly in the second session of the camp, already most of the children had left. There was a new group of children. That a big group of us got together to mark the Shloshim, the 30 days after this boy's passing. And it was in this beautiful outdoor prayer area. This camp is known for its art, and there is a outdoor prayer area with an ark made out of wood, suspended from the ceiling with huge, beautiful wooden wings carved, looking out over a lake. And I remember the rector of the camp happened to be the parsha where Aaron dies in the Torah, and where these laws of Shloshim come from, the origin for Shloshim. And so this is in the book of Numbers, says, "They ascended Mount Hor in the sight of the whole community. Moses stripped Aaron of his vestments and put them on his son Eleazar. And Aaron died there on the summit of the mountain. When Moses and Eleazar came down from the mountain, the whole community knew that Aaron had breathed his last. All the house of Israel bewailed Aaron 30 days. And so Rashi, the French commentator, tries to explain, well, why does the Torah say that when Moses and Eleazar came down, the people knew that Aaron was dead and bewailed him? Why make that point? And he says, because they ask, well, where is Aaron? And Moses replied, he is dead. And then they answered, is it possible that a man who stood up against the angel of death and the plagues, is it possible that such a man the angel of death could have taken? And Moses then prayed, and the angels showed all the Israelites an image of Aaron dead, lying in the bier, and they all believed and mourned him. And they were in shock. So Rashi continues that for 30 days they bewailed him, their beloved Aaron. This is what we do, because of how much they loved Aaron. And it's possible for a whole community to come together as one group, one heart, men and women, to mourn. And Rashi says they all missed Aaron because of his ability to pursue peace and promote love between people and men and women, men and their wives, specifically, he says. But because of this story, the rabbi said this is a proper amount of time for a major stage in our mourning when we as individuals and as a nation experience loss. And so this week, we marked our 30 days of communal mourning since the October 7th attacks. And in general, our tradition is very wise in what it teaches about mourning and grieving, and also how to find a new peace amidst it all. And this parsha is a parsha where we learn a lot about the laws of grieving, of burial. because Sarah dies. And it's a very challenging loss, as we can imagine, for Abraham, his partner all these years, who walked with him to new life. And also for Isaac, for the whole clan, the whole family, she upheld everybody. As we read, she lived a long life of strength and upholding God's ways. And so the first step in the morning is for Abraham to bury Sarah. And this is where, by the way, we get all the laws for Jewish burial. And so we get a detailed account of all the efforts that Abraham goes to honor his wife Sarah by securing a burial plot. And so he approaches the local people, and they're Hittites, they're not Jewish, and he makes a plea and he says, let me bury Sarah amongst you. And they come back and they say to him, bury your deceased among our choicest burial plots. None of us will withhold this burial place from you. You are the elect of Adonai among us. So it's actually a beautiful moment, and he finds that in his pain, he finds some unexpected friends who are with him, and they come to an agreement. And the rabbis understood the first thing you do when you are in mourning, individually or communally, is you have to bury your dead. And this is a very difficult time. We call this aninut, right, in Judaism. And even many of the most important mitzvot are no longer compulsory. You don't have to say the Shema when you're in aninut because you're so in shock, immersed in taking care of all the logistics in a different state of mind. Because the focus is to bury one's beloved deceased and to give them kavod amet, the honor due to a deceased, and to bury them in a way that also allows the family to begin to have a little bit of closure and to feel they've done their best for their loved one as a chapter closes in their life. And so how do you find healing from there? We don't have too many details, but we do have what we read this morning. When the Torah tells us when Abraham was old and blessed and everything, and presumably still in pain from his mourning, and he realizes his own mortality, and he has to go and find a wife for his son Isaac. And so he sends his servant Eliezer. And then the parsha is filled with all the wonderful, uplifting story we read this morning, all the coincidences and divine intervention as Eliezer finds Rebecca, and all the wonder as she seems to be a good wife sanctioned by God and is brought back for Isaac. And in one of the beautiful passages of the book of Genesis, Isaac sees his wife coming, and it's a special moment because he realizes God is still with them even after the loss of his mother. And he falls in love almost immediately with his wife, and they start and take it up from where it was. And the Midrash says that when Sarah died, everybody missed her, and as a symbol, she lit the Shabbos candles, and they not only gave light on Shabbat, but for the whole week they were brought light, a symbol for what she gave to the community. And then when she died, everybody missed what she brought, her presence. But then when Rebecca came, she started to light her Shabbos candles, and suddenly there was healing in the camp. A new chapter began, a new beginning with a healing for everyone. So last week I was talking to a member of the synagogue who I met at a restaurant, and asked him, how are they doing with everything happening in Israel? And she said to me, I think I finally understand the rules of Shloshim, that in the 30 days after death, there are all these laws. You don't go to concerts, you don't go to celebrations. And she said how hard it's been to try and maintain her regular schedule. And every time she's tried to go out to do something fun, it hasn't worked for her. She's felt disconnected from it. Not helpful. And that she understood that when you're in mourning, your inner world is shifting and everything you're going through and it changes, and how you want to spend your time is different. That there is a reason that many of us have been feeling on and off this way for the past month. We've been in the shock of what's happened and a state of mourning after an event that caused such massive loss for our people and the rise in anti-Semitism and changed our perception of the safety of Israel and of our own safety. So as we pass the Shloshim, and there are still months ahead, and the situation is still ongoing, but we do have to believe, just in all other situations, that we will find healing. And our Torah's wisdom is that, in essence, a true healing comes out with Rebecca when you find the new beginning. And until then, you're grappling to try and find where the new chapter will begin. But we have to keep on going, knowing the new chapter will begin, and will bring new life and new light. and a new heart to our people. And there's a reason we have all of these customs. They help us when we experience loss. Remember at the summer camp, a year later, they came back and there was a memorial for the boy. And the pain had shifted. It was different. A year later, it's different. And so what do we do is we mark Shloshim and the journey onwards from there. We become even more impassioned with godly passion to fight for truth, for our people, to make this world a better place, for a vision of humanity that holds on to love and that treats each other with empathy and compassion and virtues such as hope, and not the anger or hate or barbarism that we witness and that too often define human behavior. We bring that godly passion to making compassion the center point, at least of our lives, a passion to work on all of ourselves to be better vehicles in our own lives for that compassion and love and peace and hope. And we find the strength, we find the courage, and we find the willpower to accomplish and to bring these things into our own hearts. So in the Torah, Moses sees God in the burning bush. In the Hebrew, belabat esh, in the flaming fire inside the bush. In the Hasidic masters, they teach that labat is the same word as lahava, which is also the kind of passion you find in a human being. And so where did Moses see God? They teach Moses saw God in the burning fire. And what was the God that Moses saw? Moses saw that part of his own self that was on passion to make this world more divine, to do good in this world, in his own heart, because that's where God resides. When we find that passion to make this world better, then others are drawn by that power. It's contagious. And this is our response to barbarism, to tragedy. We try and awaken a fire within all of us. As we know, we're all taught that we have a divine spark within. As my father, Rabbi Glick, taught last week, we have the spark is before we kindle it, but once we kindle it, it becomes a divine flame. Shabbat Shalom.